What I'm gonna say in this video will either make me look really silly 8 years from now or the complete opposite. And that's because this is gonna be a really fresh take on perhaps one of the most misunderstood segments about the Singapore real estate market, the CCR. And because this thing is going to be so new, so unorthodox, I spent the last month doing my research, piecing everything together in my head. And the only thing I could ask for in return is that if you take away anything at all from this video, is to like and subscribe, as will help out the channel a ton, and also to give me a little bit of motivation to continue putting out videos like that. Thank you very much. Now, the interesting thing about this new thesis we have about the CCR was that it didn't start off with us trying to analyze the CCR. It started off because we noticed two problems with regards to the real estate market, primarily in the RCR and OCR. And the first of the problems is that there is a lack of supply in the resale market, and we notice this because we have clients looking to purchase resale units in the RCR and OCR, and if you can resonate, you know how hard that can be, especially if you are looking for developments that's near the MRT, near good schools, in areas of high upgrader demand. And the second problem is that I noticed that everybody's kind of thinking the same way right now and applying the same kind of playbook strategies to select properties in the resale market. Quite similarly, right, they're looking at close to MRT, near good schools, areas with high upgrader demand, and also looking at past transacted data, trying to find properties with a decent performance. Now, if you notice, this in itself is kind of creating a vicious cycle, pushing prices in these developments really high. So if you're someone who likes to think 2 steps ahead, don't mind thinking a little contrarian, going against the norm, and also take a little bit of risk, you might find this take interesting. So for the very first part of this video, I thought it would be useful for us to share with the audiences the thought process that we adopt to derive predictions like that. For those of you who've been following us, you know that we've been doing these videos all the way from 2020, and the thing that we do differently from everyone else is that we actually come back to those predictions to review how accurate we've been the year after, right? And I think if you've seen the track record, it's been pretty accurate so far. Okay, I will apologize that we haven't yet done the 2025 prediction video. I know we've already been a quarter of the year in, right? But not to worry, that video is coming out real soon, and it'll be up to date right from today and for the remaining 3 quarters of the year. But that's it, right? That's going to be another reason for those of you who are not following us yet to click that like and subscribe button if you want to check out that video. But that's it, right? I've reviewed our 2024 predictions and we've been pretty accurate for that so far, right? So now how do we get all these predictions right? Okay, so we start off always first by analyzing the problems in and around the market. Right, we look at the kind of data points that don't change overnight, right? I like supply data, I like income data, affordability sort of data, and as well as on the ground resale supply data, right? Because those are the most real sort of data, and those things don't change overnight, right? So once you have understood the problem, you have the data to back it up, you mesh these 2 things together, then you can kind of predict what's going to be the knock-on effect of all this of all these problems. Okay, so I'm going to piece all this together and explain to you guys how I derive the upcoming prediction that I have with regards to the CCR using a similar thought process. Now, let's talk about the first problem. It's a lack of supply in the resale market. This was something we noticed because we serve clients looking for resale units as well, and we are having a really hard time finding solid, good units in the resale market, fairly priced ones. At that, if you are facing a similar problem, do let us know in the comments which are these areas that you're looking at, what's the unit type, what are condos that's causing you all this stress. So for us, right, the example that I'm going to show you are a couple of condos, right, that our clients are looking at, the TOP ranging between 2020 to 2024. Bear in mind, During that 4 years, a total of almost 36,000 units hit their TOP. Okay, and the examples that I'm bringing up are Parc Esta, JadeScape, and Parc Clementes. We have filtered the search down into 3 bedders above 1,000 square feet. So these are primarily 3 plus study, 3 premiums, right? A favorite for upgraders. So Parc Esta 1,399 units, 394 3 bedders. That forms about 28% of the overall supply, right? Going to 3 bedders. JadeScape 1,206 units. We have 265 of them. There are 3 bedders. That contributes about 22% of the total supply. Parc Clementes 1,468 units in total, out of which 493 are 3 bedders, contributing up to 34% of the total supply. Now, if we sum up all these 3 condos together, we have about 4,073 units, giving us a total of 1,152 3 bedders in total. Now, out of all those 3 bedders, how many 3 premiums are currently for sale? Let's take a look. Over in Parc Esta, 4 units. Okay, and like for your sake, you can also take a look at the asking prices and the asking PSFs. Okay, right? We have a JadeScape, where the PSF and the prices are even higher. 2 units. And this might actually be the same unit. Okay. Parc Clementes, 1,400 units are 1 3-bedder premium for sale, right? Also a very high PSF. Okay. So 7 units in total for a total of 1,152 3-bedders. So that's a total of 0.6% of the total supply that's currently for sale. So now this is the first problem that we are facing in the market right now. And do I expect this problem to subside in the next year or 2? The answer is no. Because if we take a look at the TOP supply of private condominiums, right, this excludes ECs. So in this period between 2020 to 2024, the batch of supply that I just showed you, right, Parc Esta, JadeScape, Parc Clementes, we have Riverfront in those, Affinity, Parc Colonial, all those, right? We had a total of about 36,000 condominiums that TOP in that period. Okay, with all that supply, the resultant supply in the resale market is whatever you can see right now. Yeah, and the issue is that in this next 4 years, okay, the overall TOP supply is going to drop to a total of about 29,000. The reason why I'm showing you this is that you have to look in perspectives. I've been speaking to some of my clients. A lot of them fall into the misconception that because they see a lot of new launches, new developments being launched, especially in the last quarter of last year to date, right? And they have the impression that the market may be oversupplied in the next coming years. And I've shared with them this data. Now I'm sharing it with the audience, right? That we are not going into an oversupply situation. As a matter of fact, I'm extremely concerned that we may be going into a undersupplied situation. And here's a couple of reasons. Okay, so first of which is that 36,000 result in that small number in the resale market. Yeah, so now 29,000 obviously is going to be lesser, right? It's a 19% reduction in TOP supply. And so now all these are supply side factors. Okay, next we want to take a look at demand side factors, okay, which is HDB upgraders, MOP numbers, right? The most available data that you kind of have, okay? And the reason is because all the other parts of demands, condo to condo upgraders, those kind of numbers hover about, I believe it's about 18 to 20,000 per year. Year on year, they don't spike by much, right? The real surge in demand tends to come when there's a surge in MOP supply. The last time we've seen it was actually in 2021, a surge of MOP supply, and that surge actually resulted in a spike in private property prices, resulting in cooling measures. We've been actually pretty fortunate, okay, that the MOP supply in 2025 is also low to kind of match up with the low TOP supply, right? But in the next year, 2026, 2027, 2028, the MOP supply is going to pick up, right? We can take a look at this article, right, shared by Minister Desmond Lee. I'm going to zoom into the parts where they are sharing a little bit more about the MOP numbers. Of course, the headline of the article is that they do expect HDB resale prices to stabilize. I think by the time you're watching this video, I would have already put out a video sharing my thoughts about this particular article and my thoughts about where I feel HDB prices are headed to. Okay, so you can check out on the main channel. Okay, but this one I'm bringing your attention to this part, talking about the MOP numbers. Okay, so the MOP numbers over the last 2 years, 2024 and 2025, have been low, right, as a result of the delays in terms of key collection during the pandemic period. Okay, but that number from 8,000 is going to pick up by 5,000 to 13,500 and eventually ending with 19,700 in 2028. So we are seeing a pickup in MOP numbers with not a whole lot, to be fair, not a whole lot of TOP supply. And you can't really be dependent on these supplies anymore, as we have seen in the previous example. So this undersupply in the resale market, when it applies to a large chunk of the resale market, there are pockets, there are certain developments that don't face this problem. Case in point, we have reflections at Keppel Bay, similar considerations, 1,000 square feet, 3 bedders. We have 100 units for sale. We have Avenue South Residences, 3 bedders at above 1,000 square feet, 13 units for sale. And we have Normanton Park, similarly 3 bedders above 1,000 square feet with 30 units for sale. Now, how do you explain this particular phenomenon? So how I see it is that I personally feel that everybody in the market right now is kind of thinking the same way, be it owner-occupiers, right, which totally understandably, right, they want to buy near MRT, they want to buy near good schools and whatnot, right? Hence, they want to buy into these particular developments. The investors themselves now have also adopted the mindset, because we all talk about exit strategy, knowing who your buyers are, right? A concept that was quite foreign a couple of years ago, but right now kind of everybody says the same thing. Now, which is why everybody thinks the same way. So even investors are buying like owner-occupiers. Now, everybody is rushing into this select few kind of units, RCR, those within the good schools, okay? Hence driving the prices up. Supply being very, very low. A lot of the owners over there feels like they've already landed themselves in kind of their dream house. They don't really want to sell. They want to sell. They don't know what they're going to upgrade into, hence resulting in such short supply. So then, of course, we take a look at these other developments that have quite high supply. Okay, not to say, of course, with the exception, right, of Reflections, Normanton, and Avenue South Residences, they are still relatively profitable, just probably not as profitable as Parc Esta. So now, every time we suggest some of these developments to our buyers, they will be thinking, hey, wow, but I look at the percentage returns, it's not as good as Parc Esta, it's not as good as, JadeScape and whatnot, right? So are you sure about it, right? Then their logical side takes a step back and it's like, well, if the profitability right now is not so high, if I go in, does it mean, I will make money as Parc Esta? So doesn't it make more sense that, yes, while I pay a premium, I still go into Parc Esta, JadeScape, Park Clementi's? Totally understandable and totally logical, okay? And if you see, the issue right now is that this second problem, right, everybody thinking the same way, feeding into the first problem now is creating this cycle whereby it's driving the prices of all these particular developments up, be it RCR, be it OCR, as long as they start off well, they have a strong data point, they have strong organic demand. Actually, the organic demand, that kind of thing, isn't even that important anymore. Most important is positive data points, profitable at the start, and continue to be profitable. Then it creates its own it creates its own market in itself already. And we are seeing this phenomenon also trickle into the new launch market. Everybody is also thinking in the same way. RCR near to Good School, near to MRT, which is why we see developments like EOK, like Trump Park doing so well. And then all the demand go into those developments. They can't get a queue number, don't get a chance to buy, then they trickle down into even our OCR developments, OCR launches. Hence, driving the prices of all those developments up, those new developments up so high. Now, of course, you'll be asking me, oh, Elvin, so does that mean that those developments will lose money? The answer is no, as long as the first two problems that I mentioned earlier on in this video persist, right? The lack of choices in the resale market, which I have explained, I don't think is going to happen. And number two, everybody thinking the same way, right? I think that problem is going to stay, right? Because first of all, the data will continue to back this up. It's feeding into its own cycle, and it's all starting from what? It's all starting from the fact that owner-occupiers have no choice but to buy in this kind of characteristics of condominiums, right? And so they have to continue to buy. The demand is going to be there. And the investors will want to sell to this kind of demand, right? Yeah, especially if they buy it firsthand into the new development market. Okay, and then again, we already have the data to show you that yes, there's a lot of those supply, but effective supply coming into the resale market is very, very low. Maybe we won't see the kind of numbers like today of 0.6% only coming into the market, right? Even if it rise to 1%, honestly, I don't think that is sufficient enough to feed all the potential upgraders coming into the market. So in summary, the two big problems that we observed can be summarized into a supply side problem, right? Problem number one, a lack of supply in the RCR and OCR. And problem number two being a demand side problem, because all the demand is thinking the same way, flocking into those two areas and resulting in the prices of the condominiums in those areas going up really, really high. Now that I've understood the problems and the possible knock-on effects on the market, I'm going to share with you what I think is going to happen to the market moving forward. Can be right, can be wrong, at least this is my take. Okay, let's take a look. I'm going to first start off with the supply side to things. Okay, the supply of private properties being built. And I'm starting us off all the way from 2016 up to 2028. So let's take a look. First, it's from 2016 to 2020, right? I got this data from URA, right? Pipeline supply of private residential units by market segments, right? With expected year of completion from 2016 to 2022, right? Don't bother so much about the numbers. What we want to look at is the percentage of total supply. So we have 9% of all supply coming into the CCR, 31% of the supply coming into the RCR, and 60% of the supply going into the OCR. I personally feel this split kind of makes sense, okay? We are coming out from the period of 2013 to 2016 where there was a lot of oversupply because the government stripped out all the speculative demand in the market, right? The market was adjusting to the cooling measures and whatnot, okay? This was also the period whereby the government started pushing out a lot of HDBs in response to what happened in 2011, where they lost the GRC for the very first time. They were then pushing out a lot of BTOs. So they were expecting a lot of supply of HDB upgraders coming into the OCR, hence pumping most of the supply over here into the OCR. So this is kind of correct, right? And it has resulted still in OCR prices really picking up quite a fair bit, as well as the RCR. All right. So now let's take a look at 2020 to 2024. Right. If you know, right, this was the period in time that I've talked about quite a lot in this video. Our Parc Esta, JadeScape, Park Clementi supply. Okay. Now here's the split. Okay. 19% into the CCR, 41% into the RCR, and 40% into the OCR. So you do notice actually the percentage of supply into the OCR is actually not that much. Right, they're actually pumping in a lot more supply into the RCR, of which only about 20% is in the CCR. Okay, so now how do you kind of understand this, or how at least I interpret this? Okay, a lot of the upgraders right? They have moved into their condos. Actually, in this batch of supply, there were a lot of ECs as well, right? There was kind of an oversupply of ECs during that period, okay? So most of these ECs, condo upgraders, or maybe even some of the HDB upgraders are looking to move perhaps closer to the city center. Hence, the government has pumped up. And actually, a lot of this supply may not be government's own intention to do, because actually quite a fair number of these were en bloc supply as well, okay? So it kind of resulted in all of this, but it turned out working pretty well, okay? Because the 41% really catered to a lot of condo upgraders as well, EC upgraders actually taking up a huge chunk of them, okay? And we've also seen OCR prices started to shoot up, okay? CCR, not so much, but we are starting to see some of all these CCR developments. Here is DOP starting to come out into the resale market, and surprisingly, some of them have done pretty well. Case in point, right? Leiden Residences, Hill on Holland, even One Pearl Bank, right? I'm going to talk about some of these examples later on in the video, how to piece all of this together into a particular narrative, and how that can help us kind of stay 1 or 2 steps ahead, okay? So now, this is 2020 to 2024, kind of still fit the market mix a little bit, but kind of this split, okay? So now I understand, right? This split has resulted in the first problem that we have seen so far, right? A huge spike in prices and the undersupply in the RCR and the OCR. Now, this is going to be the split from 2024 to 2028, of which we've seen a pickup in supply in the CCR from 19 to 26%. The OCR have remained the same at 41%. 41%. So you could see a shift from the RCR into the CCR, a shift of supply from the RCR into the CCR. Okay. And I think most of you watching this video should know, right? Especially if you're following the news, right? We do expect a huge chunk of supply coming into the CCR very, very soon, by second half of this year. The first problem immediately that come to your mind, you might be thinking, oh dear, there's going to be an oversupply. Prices will be low. But what if, right, this was all part of the plan? Okay, what plan? The plan to shift demand away from RCR and OCR to kind of solve the problem number 1 that we have been talking about, right? Because I believe the government can see this data, right? At least I choose to believe, right? That there's going to be undersupply. Okay, moving forward, the supply also not that high, right? 33%. That's going to drive prices very, very high. And they've also seen the data of the prices in the new launches going very, very high. So what do, right? Do you dump more supply into those areas? Okay, if you dump more supply into those areas again, right, everybody's just going to flock in those areas, leaving the CCR to underperform significantly. And that kind of doesn't really make sense, right? The most prime areas in Singapore, the prices are underperforming the outsides of Singapore. Like the whole idea of trying to rejuvenate the CBD and all those kind of things, right? Bring some attention to the transformation of the old race course, right, in Bukit Timah, right? All these areas kind of underperforming, which just doesn't really fit into the whole space planning narrative of everything. So I do think the government has the intention to bring back some of the demand into the CCR. So my prediction is that the CCR supply is coming up, but I do expect the demand also to come back up. Why? Okay, it's because prices of the CCR and the RCR are going to be, I'm going to push very, very close. As a matter of fact, I have the data somewhere. Maybe I'll put it onto the screen. That gap today is one of its lowest gaps in the last 10 or 15 years, I believe. Okay, and when the gap narrows to this level, right, it's definitely gonna cause some people, especially, so visualize this, right? Buyer come into the market, RCR adopting, right? Problem number 2, right? Adopting all the same approach. Then you're going to see the development. Number 1, they're going to, by the time TOP ready, right? They're going to see the development. They want to buy a unit. Number 1 problem, don't have unit. Number 2 problem, when the unit comes up, the price 3,300 PSF. Wow. Then they're starting to think, should we buy? Definitely, some people will still buy because the supply is so low. Definitely some people, they need the school or they need the location, they will still buy, right? And they can afford, right? But then what does that leave with all the rest of the people trying to buy something? okay, and want to buy something, right? Definitely there's a demand over there. Where do they go? Do they choose to go into the OCR, right? Then you force all the demand to flow around those areas, pushing the prices so high there. No, right? Offer an alternative, right? So they push all the supply out into the CCR right now, right? We have 5,000 over units over in the River Valley. We do expect, right? Just nice, the MRT come up, they pump in the supply over there. I believe it should range, I think, 2,000 plus units over there. What would that cost, or what would they force the developers to do right now when they pump in all the supply together? Keep prices low, right? So I do expect some of the prices potentially to attract all the attention, right? We've already seen one Marina Gardens, very, very attractive entry prices. I do expect River Valley, some of those developments to come up with very, very attractive entry prices as well. Potentially even lower than some of the prices we have seen transacted in the RCR, just to bring in all the attention, right? So the government forced all the supply out, developers have to compete with one another, cannot price too high. Offering an alternative for the demand. Here's the keyword. It's to offer an alternative for the demand. Okay, so you might say, yeah, but I don't want to stay there. Upgrader also cannot stay there. For the schools, there are no schools, they know nothing, right? So here's the thing that I want to share with the audiences, right? It's this concept called demand split. And actually you have seen the government do this before, where in the HDB market, especially the HDB BTO market. Here's the thing, right? Why do they come up with the standard prime and standard plus and prime HDB flats? The whole idea is to split the demand, right? Those people that want to buy cheap, hold 5 years and then roll out, upgrade, right? You go and move into the outskirts area. Okay, if you want near MRT, okay, right, then you're subjected to this rule, but don't go and speculate, don't go and flip, right? Stay there for 10 years. Strict rules come into the resale market. So those that want to stay for long, but while keeping price cheap, getting a chance to buy, they will go for the prime and the plus flats, right? Those that want to move on a lot quicker, they was splitting the demand. Previously, all the demand going towards one place, right? Then that's why everything go towards the Skyview, all those Dawson flats, because everybody just want to go in, they know confirm can make money, all 5-year MOP ma. So they do that to split the demand. Okay, and I'm guessing, okay, that the government is potentially trying to do this also with the private market, right? Because right now also, right, similar, all the demand flowing, right? Problem number 2, all the demand flowing to the RCR, OCR, the standard checklist, right? The standard playbook for what to look out for when you buy a condo, right? To split the demand out, okay? So that the upgraders, those that need it for the school, for the MRT, whatever, they can still have a chance to buy without having to pay crazy prices, okay? Then perhaps the couples, those with no kids, those that don't really need to go and compete with them, they go and buy the CCR lah. End of the day, still great places to stay, right? Marina South, for example, River Valley, for example, don't go and compete, right? They split out the demand, hence keeping prices affordable on both sides, okay? So yeah, right, with the gap being so low, definitely, right, low to a level whereby I'm guessing, and I'm willing to put my head out there to say it may potentially be even 2 to 3 years down, right? Some of all these RCR, those very, very popular RCR developments may move at higher prices than some of these CCR developments, because right now today the supply is so similar. Supply in what sense? Sizing of units is so similar. So PSF, if they have to push due to the lack of supply, push to very, very high 3,002. Some of the CCR ones launch at let's say 2008, they can come up to 3,002 as well, right? That the prices would be super duper similar, and the demand, discerning demand, some of them, especially due to the lack of supply, they end up choosing the CCR. Hence, my prediction that the demand in the CCR will start to pick up. Now, let's talk about problem number 2, where everybody is thinking the same way, adopting the same playbook, buying the same kind of properties, driving the prices up. So which is why I'm taking all this effort and also even putting my head out there to say something that's so drastically different from the rest, because I genuinely feel that it's not great for the market for that to happen. Number 1, prices get pushed up so high. Number 2, people are left without options because everybody's thinking the same way, looking at the same thing, then they got no options. Things don't move, okay, and it's better for everybody that things get moved along and then people have options, okay? And it all stemmed from the fact that I've been doing this for 10 years, and I look back and actually I noticed that there were missed opportunities that we have for clients, right? Right, we are all human, okay? We all make mistakes. We have missed out opportunities for our clients before. Could give you an example, right? Seaside Residences, when it first launched, okay, our clients actually had a great chance to purchase one of the first few units. And if you look at the Seaside performances today, you would have known that basically any unit they bought would have reaped great profits. But at that point in time, our thinking was not mature enough. We couldn't get across hurdles such as it being the highest price in that surrounding area, significantly higher than the rest. I could say almost double that of all the older 99s in that area. It was probably even more expensive than some of the freeholds in a better part of District 15. So, right, for all intents and purposes, if you look at the data, everything, it just didn't make sense. Pull our clients out, opportunity lost. Okay, they still make money at the end of the day, but not as much as had they gone for Seaside Residence. Right? Some of the other case studies, actually during the period of One Pearl Bank, even ASR, right, Avenue South Residences, even here on Holland, Key Residences, some of these developments that have DOP and have actually started to track well in terms of their performance, not across the board, but some of the units actually did pretty well. Right, some of these were the kind of developments that we didn't really truly understand at that point in time. We decided to adopt the more common approach, right, which was adopt, right, all this Parc Esta, JadeScape and whatnot, right. But the problem comes with that the market moves in cycles, right. There are certain point in time whereby you adopt that playbook, there's definitely something to buy. But I do see us approaching a part of the cycle whereby if you adopt that playbook, okay, you might not have a whole lot of options, even in resale or in new developments. And this is where we need to start thinking out of the box and start to understand, not simply remove and not ignore some of this kind of options, right? Just simply because it doesn't fit into this conventional wisdom, this narrative, okay? We have to think out of the box. And I feel it's kind of like my duty to do so. Number one, just to help people gain more perspectives, allowing them to open up their options, giving them some confidence to move on, okay? And of course, as we do more and more videos on this channel, I will offer some more data points to kind of back this up and to build up this confidence for the market to think out of the box and to kind of adopt a slightly different approach from the rest. Okay, like I said, caveats in play, right? If you still need to buy those developments, then go ahead and buy, right? Location, schools, and that kind of thing, right? No choice. You have to go and buy. This is meant for those people with options. You don't necessarily have to buy a Parc Esta, a JadeScape, a Parc Clementis. You don't, right? Okay? You're just maybe looking at that because, you know, the data for those developments are great. You want to make sure that you're buying into something with good data, right? So whatever I'm trying to share is, let's try to think out of the box, okay? Take a look at some of the data points of all these other developments that didn't check into this kind of narrative but still did well, okay? And then here's the thing, right? If you recognize that why those are doing well is the data. So these are some of the developments just now starting off to show good data points, okay? And it's just a matter of time before the data points for that start to feed into one another and create a very similar cycle. Now, do you want to be the first mover into it, or you want to be kind of the laggard person into it, okay? Of course, there's lots of nuances to this whole thing, portfolio planning, considering your options and that kind of thing, right? How do you rank this out? If that's confusing to you or you don't know what to do, feel free to reach out to us. We could help you out with that. But, you know, main purpose of this video is to help people open up their perspectives, okay? And so that's the first part, right? Understanding some of the mistakes that we made, right? Didn't think out of the box, missed opportunities. The second one is some of the things that probably what we did right, okay, was to think one step ahead, right? Was to reconcile all the data points and to make a decision based on that. Because when we first bought Parc Esta at 2017, it wasn't as clear-cut as what it is today. Of course, today there's all the data to back it up, right? In hindsight, looked great. But honestly, at that point in time, there were quite a number of red flags, right? Too many units, very hard to sell next time, right? Our particular unit was facing the mosque, which was, again, people here say, very hard to sell moving forward. At that point, the data points for buying new developments was actually not that fantastic. Right? We honestly, it was a gamble. It was a leap of faith, right, to go in, right? There wasn't sufficient data points to show that all these kind of large scale developments still do well. You buy in as a developer at that point in time, launch day, those developments if you remember JadeScape, I think sold very, very poorly, right? Maybe 10, 15, 20%. It took them a long time to sell. Parc Esta similarly, launch day 10, 20%, took them a long time to sell. Again, if you adopt the approach of like, wow, launch day, these developments didn't really sell well, cannot buy, the demand not high. Again, missed opportunities, right? So kind of like how we did it again was to kind of understood the problems, think 1 or 2 steps ahead, not conform to conventional wisdom, traditional narrative, right? And to kind of trust the data. Okay, so what are some of the data points that we utilize? Actually, we utilize whatever I shared earlier, some of the TOP data, timing your exit at the correct time. Don't sell it when high TOP supply, sell it when the TOP supply is a little bit low, matching up to the MOP supply, right? So these are some of the things that I thought I could share to help listeners, help viewers change out their perspective a little bit, right? So there's the data part to things and also the thinking part to things, right? So summarizing all of this, okay? Demand, I do expect it to come up with the prices being so close to one another, or maybe even lower than the RCR, right? Due to the sheer amount of supply coming in, developers have to price it competitively, right? So if you know how to select the units, understand the demand, what is popular, what will move, what are some of the gaps in the market. Speaking of which, there's actually a pretty big gap in the 3-bedder supply over in the River Valley area, okay? We've shared already with our clients on some of these gaps, getting our clients to move in first. If this is something that interests you, feel free to reach out to us. Happy to share these gaps. Not very big, cannot share on the open channel, unfortunately. I already sharing a lot of stuff for you guys, right? Reserving that for our private clients. If that's something that you're open to consider, feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out to us, okay? So, right, thought thinking part to things here. So again, right, bringing an end to the video to summarize the whole thing. Number 1, we recognize the problems. What is the possible knock-on effects? What the government is trying to do to kind of address these problems, what the data is suggesting that's possible to address all these problems, an increase in supply in the CCR, prices narrowing significantly. Definitely there will be demand moving forward because demand is not homogeneous, okay? And with the first batch of CCR supply from the 2020-2024 ones starting to see positive uptick in supply, right? There's definitely demand moving into those kind of supplies. Why? Because the new developments don't have the RCR don't have. We are seeing the first stage of this shift in demand right now already, right? You can go in to see One Pearl Bank. You can go in to see Leiden Residences, Hill on Holland, ASR by a couple of measures, right? That's not really the CCR, but it's actually a development with no real good organic demand, right? But it seems to still be kind of doing quite well, right? Just have to make sure that you have the right entry price, you select the right units, right facings, those sort of things, right? So I'm going to end off this video by sharing some of my takes, right? Some of the important kind of thought process to really anchor down and what some of the opportunities you can take, right? So if you have the option to not buy into the RCR, OCR right now, you can consider some of the purchases in the CCR. And front run the market, front run this shift in demand into the CCR, front run the fact that data points in the CCR will start to change, right? Because right now it's at the mercy of all the poor data all the way from 2011, 2013, all the way until even today, right? Some are still clearing off some of the poor data points. That will eventually change, right? Because demand is not homogeneous, lack of supply, moving all the demand inside this market, okay? So now with that, I'm going to end this video. Do like and subscribe. We're going to be pumping out a lot more videos focused in the CCR, right? Because I do feel that there's actually a lot of opportunities there for those who number one, can afford, for those who have the options to consider some of all these supplies, right? Probably in a week or so, our One Marina Gardens video should be out. It's a very, very interesting place. I spent quite a fair bit of time doing research into that area, and I do think it's something that's quite interesting, feeding into this narrative that I've mentioned in this video. Okay, so with that, I'll see you guys soon.